Hello.
Good
Welcome
evening.
back. Round 3 in the books. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's getting there.
it's
It's getting there.
getting close to what we expect.
Well, I think it was. It's probably the best quality football that's been played so far this year. I reckon there were some really, really good games played. I don't know. I guess we'll see if that trend continues,
Yeah.
especially with some of the teams that are at places on the ladder where you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be. Like Penrith are sitting in, I think, 11th right now.
And the Warriors in the top four, aren't they? Or something like
The Tigers are in the top four.
Yeah.
Warriors are in around
Yeah, the Tigers are the interesting
I'll
one.
get the ladder up right now, actually.
There's only one undefeated team now.
Yeah, it's still Melbourne, but there are
Yeah.
still a few imperfect teams. Yeah,
Three.
yeah. The top four of Storm, Bulldogs, Seagulls, and Tigers. That's what everyone expected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry, the Panthers are in 12th. They're currently sitting right behind the Rabbits, as everyone predicted,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, we all thought that was going to be happening.
I had that happening. I lost that. I had the Rabbits in third and Penrith in fourth. So
I'm sorry, I don't see the rabbits.
it's not going
being
to
there.
continue, but stop the count.
Yeah, you right.
I guess we should probably get started on
Yeah.
actually talking about the games.
Sounds good.
Thursday night, Storm Panthers. I was right. Excellent game.
It was. I mean, there were some errors that didn't really
Okay,
take
well,
away from the game. So.
Excellent game outside of Nathan Cleary being stupid and deciding to jump for joy when he shouldn't have.
Don't know what he was doing there. It wasn't even near the
It was
ball.
a very, very strange moment, wasn't it?
Something. I mean, that was really, really weird.
He could be ayahuasca for all we know.
Yeah, all he did was land on his head, and that was that.
Yeah.
So he was out this week as well.
Yeah, I figured because I was at work. We had this game playing on one of the televisions, and as soon as Cleary was out, I thought, "Oh dear, this is not going to be close because Melbourne are just a league in front of everybody right now." But
Penrith have a system, right? The system is good.
fun the two fan bases for this game. I think Penrith fans are much happier with how this game played out than Melbourne fans are. And you look at that with the coach as well. Bellamy was pissed.
He wasn't happy. No.
Cleary seemed fairly content with it. So I think that's one of both of those teams.
Yeah. But I think it was probably good for Melbourne because they had a couple of relatively easy ones. And it's good that they, had one easy one and the bye. So it was really good for them to have a hard one and say, okay, where do we need to improve? Because obviously some silly penalties and stuff were given and all that sort of stuff, some of which I didn't agree with.
The Munster one's going to call. I tell you what, if Penrith somehow went on and won that game, that Munster penalty would have been so much more criticised.
Yeah.
And
there was no need to blow a penalty. Give him a caution.
I found it very dumb.
It was petty.
It's just that it happened in the trials a couple times, I think, is what changes it a little bit to like, it can happen. It's not like a new precedent sort of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, he did like that on his back, and suddenly that's a penalty.
Yeah, I don't agree with it at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a dumb penalty.
Nobody with any decent football now control of their temper and stuff would have got up and been stupid like Liam Martin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Munster and Martin have always had a bit of a.
Yeah, I think Martin did it earlier on in the game and he wasn't penalised. I mean, it's just
there's the reffing is very inconsistent, and I think that needs to be rectified as soon as possible because otherwise these calls of games being quote unquote rigged are going to get louder and louder until something changes.
The other Munster one where he was supposedly a hip drop, which was not at all.
I think it was
a hip drop. He didn't land on him. I read the rules on NRL.com. You have to actually land with weight on their ankle or on their lower leg. And that is not what he did. He hit the ground first. Yes, one of his feet got caught.
And he slid back onto his leg.
I think one of his legs got caught up around the ankle area, and I think that twisted a bit. That's not a hip drop. That's just an accidental thing that happened in the tackle. It should never have been a penalty.
The conclusion we can draw from that is that it was the mechanism of the hip drop, but the final result wasn't what you would expect from a
He didn't really lose his feet because he was always going out. He didn't actually just grab, swing, and that's the hip drop classic.
It's the fact that he had the twisting motion as well that he had, which is a little bit more indicative.
He was always on the ground by the time. There was no actual.
Yeah, it's a bit of a grey area when it comes to that because it's whether you're penalising the intent or the result.
Yeah, I don't think there was any intent. That's the thing. I mean, had Munster wanted to, he could have in the way he was tackling.
Yeah.
He hit the ground first. And, there's always going to be arguments about whether it was, whether it wasn't. But from my reading of the rules, that wasn't an actual hip drop. And, they've got to start doing something about getting that consistent because it's going to cause a lot of contention over time.
There's going to be a big game where that does or doesn't get called.
Yeah.
And it's going to cause a lot of uproar.
And the other thing
Much like the obstruction rule.
I give up with that. Just stupid.
The obstruction rule's done. They need to fix that.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a good game of football.
I guess we can actually talk about the game.
Yeah, no, it was a good game. I thought Melbourne were going to go out they went up quite early. They scored quite early, and they looked like they were dominating quite a lot.
I figured you actually look at the statistics. Penrith were arguably the better team on the park. They played exceptionally well. They had the majority of the possession. They completed 88%. They ran more meters. They had more tackle breaks.
And guess what it comes down to? They scored the same number of tries. They just couldn't kick a goal.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you lose one of the sharpshooters in the competition, right?
So it should have been probably tired.
It's a good look for Penrith's attack that they can function without Nathan Cleary.
But that's always been them, right? Even in years when he's been out for weeks, they still managed to bring it up.
I think it's slightly more surprising now because back then you could easily point out and say, well, it's Jerome Luai because he was arguably the most important player on that team because he was what held it together in the absence of Nathan Cleary.
Although if you want to argue that,
now I think it's transitioned to Isaiah Yeo, who's the main linchpin.
So in the grand final, 23 was when Luai went off.
That was because he was not 100% in that game to begin with. He came in with a shoulder injury. So exactly.
Gamble, I guess.
But yeah, I think it's a good look for Penrith to show that without Nathan Cleary and now without their other main playmaker of the past 5 years, they can still really go at the premiership heavyweights.
Of course, but then of course they lose to a team that most people have struggling to make the 8 the week before.
I take no stock in that Roosters game. That game was on all of the hard drives. I don't get it.
It showed their mettle. They came back against probably one of the strongest favourites to win the comp in years.
Exactly. So I'm going to give Penrith their flowers for being in this game. I'm going to give Melbourne their flowers, obviously, for just winning.
Yeah.
And doing the only thing they haven't lost yet.
They know how to win games, and I think, like we said before, they're going to hardly lose any this year if they do, and I don't think any that they will lose. Like just off the top of my head. With some of their bogey teams, against Warriors can be a
for the past couple of years. I think it's been the Dragons.
Cronulla can also be.
Cronulla can do it. They match Melbourne's style the most, so they can beat them at their own game. I will say the only thing that's going to stop Melbourne from winning games is Melbourne themselves, because Nelson the Son Solomona clearly wants to kill people on the Storm. I have no idea how Nick Meaney is alive.
He wasn't even knocked out. But then he's got a broken jaw, but still got up and walked off quite nicely.
It's insane to me how he managed to walk off that field.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, his knee is gone. No,
comes back on.
Yeah.
One of them was really bad cork or something. It could have easily been something like that.
Like a slight hyperextension situation, but it didn't actually do any structural damage.
Yeah. Well, that's good. While it's warming on the play.
Really weird moments for Melbourne in this game.
Lucky moments.
Like I said before, if you look at it statistically, they were probably the inferior team, but they were just more polished in the end with, their main two-person team.
Playmakers were still on the field.
Yeah.
So, and of course, Harry Green.
Harry Green's pretty good.
So, yeah, that was a good game, and well done to both teams for putting on a spectacle.
Oh, yeah. So, it's good to have good Thursday night football.
Nice. Yeah.
It's been a while.
50 pointers and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, moving on from a great game to a not very great game.
This is one of the more boring games of football I've ever watched. I say that with a bit of tongue in cheek. It was very good defence from both sides, especially the Warriors. They had the Roosters on their line a lot, and they managed to repel them quite a bit. I don't know what happened to the Roosters of last week. They could score 1 million points.
Everything out. I mean, that was their big thing to say, hey, we're still here.
So Chad came back down to earth a little bit. He wasn't as good this week as last week. I don't know what happened to Chad, but they replaced him with Chad's doppelganger or something.
Andrew Johns came out of retirement.
He just everything actually worked.
Worked. It
Yeah.
was very strange. And then this week it just didn't happen.
It was very average.
Yeah, well, you're going to have games like that where just everything works, and then you have games where not much works, and that was one of these games.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And the Warriors, to their credit, they scrapped it out, right? It wasn't a pretty game. It wasn't a great game. It was good defense. Their attack wasn't great. And the Warriors are probably surpassing most people's expectations at the moment.
More now, I don't think they've actually. Who have they played? I don't think they've played a decent team yet, though. Really, because they got. Oh, I guess they beat Manly.
Yeah.
That was the game where they lost Trebojevic and DCE, but that was
10 minutes ago. They probably lost it, yeah.
There's so many teams that are doing this right now. It's really weird.
It makes it hard to tip.
It's very difficult to try and predict who's going to play well and who isn't on any given day.
Unless you're the bottom three who are not playing well on any given day.
Yeah, well, I guess for the Warriors, I thought Klokstad had his best game in a while.
He was incredible.
He was exceptional. He ran for some like 350.
300. It was just incredible.
Excellent game from him.
Tuivasa-Sheck did his normal Tuivasa-Sheck stuff. He was good.
And he got injured.
Yeah, well, he pulled his hammy apparently. So
that's unfortunately what will happen when you have a 30-something-year-old outside back. You're gonna have soft tissue injuries at some point.
And you're big and you run fast and all.
And someone who relies so much on footwork, it's going to happen.
Yeah, they're lucky he doesn't do these.
They were just very. I just thought the Warriors were disciplined enough. And
they did what they needed to do. Andrew Webster's got their defense working again.
Exactly. And that's what you'd expect from someone from the Penrith.
Yeah, and good luck to them. I hope they keep going because everybody likes it.
They need to get their red zone attack fixed. That's the issue that I've found with them, that even last year as well. They just can't score when they're close to the line. And maybe that comes as a function of, I don't know, last year was really strange because they still had Sean Johnson. This year I can forgive it because your halves combo is what? Channel Harris-Tavita and Luke Metcalf. Both fairly inexperienced at running a team.
Metcalf actually had a pretty good game.
Has been very, very good. He's very good in a few weeks.
He's been very good at chasing his own kicks. He's been very good lately.
Exactly. These effort plays are really good, and that's something you want to see out of these players.
Absolutely, because they need to lead by example because they're he's one of the more experienced ones now.
He would be. That's true.
So, yeah, well, good luck to the Warriors. Let's hope they keep going.
And I guess on the Roosters side, it's a bitter disappointment after beating Penrith last week.
There's really not much you can say for them.
Especially when they got Spencer Leniu and Victor Radley back. You'd be thinking, well, this is a game that they're going to actually stamp and say, we're still top 8 team. And then this happens, and you're just left wondering why.
Yeah, that's right. It's a worry. They did better without Radley. I don't know what that means.
70% completion is
not good. No, you've got to be close to 80 to have a chance of winning.
I will say, I've said this for years, Daniel Tupou is great. He's still the most underrated winger.
Oh, he's very, very good.
He ran for 260-ish meters. He was very, very good.
And even Dom wasn't too bad this week. But yeah.
It's just, these individual performances kind of lose their luster when you look at how the team as a whole played.
I mean, when you score one try in 80 minutes, it's not really
we expect to win most games, right?
Generally, no.
Yeah,
unless you're in a state of origin team that's
this year I feel like would be big for James Tedesco because this is the year he's the main focal point
at the moment
and I think he's still adjusting to that a bit because we saw. Last year, at the beginning of the year, everyone was mad at him for overplaying his hand all the time. So he dialed it back, and now he needs to dial it forward again. He's trying to brush out all the cobwebs to get there. It's going to take a couple.
His stats are getting better each week.
I think he's definitely warming back into the role he needs.
He's not a young pup.
He's or something now, I think. I don't remember how.
So it's going to start, Father Time even catches up with young people that age these days, especially when you're playing fast like NRL. Yeah. Or rugby league, sorry.
Exactly. So I think I don't think it's panic stations at the Roosters. It's the win they had last week.
Yes.
But losses like this, unfortunately, going to happen until Sam Walker comes back. Yeah. So you just need to kind of sit with it for a bit, and it will get better. You just need to stay within touch of the 38. And then you can probably get there.
Yeah, well, like I said, I tipped them for 7th or 6th or something.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not writing the Roosters off yet, and I'm writing the Warriors back in because they just seem to find ways to win these.
They're showing a lot of guts at the moment, which is excellent, which is what they need to win the game.
Yeah,
and I get in the fight,
Yeah.
and you stay in the fight, you've got a good chance of
I
winning.
think having James Fisher-Harris has done a lot of good for that team, especially in situations like this.
Yeah, he's a good leader by example. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So yeah,
They did a good swap, I suppose. They didn't lose out too badly by losing out.
I think they've done okay. It's a matter of how high the ceiling of this team is. Because I feel like they've played at roughly the same level every week and have had three completely different results. So it's just a matter of yeah, exactly.
Where they're playing. Maybe that's another thing as well. Could be.
They are probably the best crowd in rugby league.
Every week.
Yeah, and you know, Kiwi fans are always pretty rowdy.
It's fun to watch. Yeah.
That chick who does the sign every week is absolute gold with nearly all of them.
And they got one big guy they always get on the TV screen with his face all.
They used to have the Siri guy as well, but they banned him for some reason. I don't know why that happened. He was great. Friday night.
Yeah, later in the night.
Look, Queensland Derby was a bit of wet fart, if I'm being honest.
Neither team covered themselves with glory, but you know, I think there was an improved performance from the Cowboys, and that's what I was looking for. Yeah, and there was, right. And I think they tried hard. Brisbane were just a little more polished, and that's the way it works. Their home ground as well, which, you know, is always a bit of a
Suncorp is
hard to win at. But I thought, you know, they stuck it with them for the majority of the game, and I was happy to see that from them. They just need to go at one more step. Their attack is still a bit stilted.
It's very, very odd what's going on with the Cowboys' attack.
I don't know why it's as bad as it is. They've got some good attack.
It looks like Tom Deard and Tom Duffy and Scott Drinkwater are playing at a good speed, and everyone else is too slow to keep up with them. I don't know why. It just seems very disjointed. And Clifford back in the team now, who played a few games at the end of last year with them and was fairly good. He was fine in this game.
Wasn't bad.
I didn't think he was better than what Tom Duffy.
I think he gave a little bit more time for chasers to get to the ball, because obviously
he does put a little bit more height.
He's got a bit more power in his kicks, but that's. Man, he's a bit of a bigger body in defence, I guess, as well, which is probably a good thing. But Duffy was unfortunately a victim of the way the Cowboys were playing.
I think it was a victim of who the Cowboys were playing. Cronulla and Manly is your first two games in first grade,
especially Manly away from home.
Exactly.
As we will see a bit later, are hard to beat at all times, aren't they?
Yeah.
So we know that. But
on the Cowboys side, like you said before, I think Jackson Purdue
he did a lot better this week.
This was his best game he's had at centre in a bit.
I mean, he ran the furthest in the game, but did help when he ran.
I went back and listened to some of the preseason stuff surrounding him, and he was training at 7 for most of the preseason. So I think he's trying to reacclimate to being
right, because
So I think it may come with time that he gets back into being an NRL level centre. You may just need to give him a little bit of time.
You can see he has the skills, right?
Absolutely, I think he definitely has the ball skills.
Before that, he was outpacing. He was outpacing Reece Walsh, and everybody calls him Reece Lightning, and he was outpacing him holding a ball, which actually slows you down. So he's definitely got pace, and that's something the Cowboys have kind of lacked a bit. So I can understand why he's been picked again for this week, just because he's like got the speed that we need.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how close Zach Labert is to coming back. Because if Purdue has another bad game, I think Labert goes straight in.
Well, the thing is, Labert's on the reserves, and Viley, I don't think is a lay down for being in the team.
I think he's been performing the better of the team.
He has, but I think with that eye thing, that might slow him down a little bit. It wouldn't be for lack of form, because he's actually been quite good. His runs out of trouble have been great and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, if he's not 100%, I think Labert just comes straight in at centre.
And he probably will stay there, because I don't think he's had a bad game at centre. Not that I can remember anyway.
Look, he's a Labert, right? Their dad taught them how to defend, because none of them miss tackles.
And Zach Labert is quick.
And he's well. Yeah.
He's a bigger body. He's as fast as Purdue, and he's better in defence. As soon as he's healthy, I think he comes in.
For who, yeah. I think
that could be what this week is.
There's no reason, unless Viley gets injured again or something, that he doesn't go out of tier.
Oh,
He's been the best. He's been the most consistent player.
He's been maybe the best outside back in the Cowboys for yardage carries.
Yeah, he's been He's been really, really good. Look, until he got injured, I guess Burns was going all right in that respect as well.
Yeah.
Because hamstrings are everywhere at the moment. So.
And he's had a history of hamstring issues, so that was always a
worry. That body shape because he's quite tall, and still heavy.
Long legs and more muscle to tear.
Well, that's it. You look at him, turbo, right?
Exactly.
Yes, like I said at the start, I thought it was an improved performance. I thought the Broncos were still a bit short of it.
Yeah, they definitely weren't. They weren't playing 100% of what they're.
No, absolutely. Look, they had two really good players. Obviously, Payne Haas.
What can you even say about him anymore?
He's a scary individual.
He is. I think if he keeps the trajectory he's on, he's going to go down as the best forward to ever play the game. Because
there's no reason why he shouldn't.
He is doing so much right now. He's just his physical prime.
Yeah, he's
25.
He's probably got 2 or 3 years at his prime.
Exactly. And we should have known this. This is Payne Haas, who's already arguably the best forward in the game last year. And now he gets the mentality of the coach of Michael Maguire. He has become an entirely different beast.
Well, he's been coached by Maguire in New South Wales.
Exactly, in New South Wales. So he's used to this stuff.
Yeah. Which helps, right? The Queenslanders in the team, not so much. Which is why maybe Reece Walsh
But Pat Carrigan's still been going fine.
Yeah, but he'd go fine if you chopped his legs off. I don't know. He's one of those sorts of players. Look, he was good. Adam Reynolds had an amazing game of football. He was. I think he was the difference between the teams.
Absolutely.
He didn't kick the 40-20, but he kicked a beautiful kick to somebody to score. I can't remember who it was.
It was probably.
No, that's right. It was Gajewski. He kicked that one for him, and he scored one of his own just through tired defenders and stuff like that. But he I think called the shots in that game. It was 10 points. Those 2 tries, take them away. Boom, I think after that it was fairly even Steven because even the rest of their superstars didn't do so well. Reece Walsh had one good moment where he kicked the 40-20. There wasn't much else.
He wasn't amazing. He did a job for Adam Reynolds to do what he did.
Passed the last pass for their last try, which was forward. It was forward. He passed it about a step in front of the line, and the guy took it about 3 steps in front of the line. That's forward. It didn't float. It was forward out there, but it doesn't matter. That's chip packets now, whatever you want to call it now, fish and chip wrapper. Not that they use newspapers for that anymore, but that's what it is. The refs are scared to call them. I'm relatively sure they're scared, or they're just not keeping up on the pace.
I don't know what's going with touch judge.
What's their job anymore?
They don't do anything. I think they almost need to bring back the 2-ref system.
Yeah, I don't know if that actually made it any better. I think it made it more confusing for some of the players. So, other competitions get by there. The Super League only has the one. I mean, I'm not saying they necessarily have better referees, but I'm just saying you don't need another ref. You just need them to be competent.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I don't call any of them competent. And once I saw it was Todd Smith doing our game, I knew it was going to be an issue because he does not like the Cowboys. It's not even that.
None of them do, except maybe Chris Butler. He's the only one that doesn't seem too partial against.
It's really frustrating because, I mean, outside maybe the Warriors, the Cowboys
are the most selected.
The least liked of the teams, right?
Yeah.
For referees, at least. I know there's other members of other clubs that like the Cowboys, but the referees just, I don't know. You're always playing against the other team plus the guy who has the whistle, and that makes it very difficult. Jonathan Person mentioned that about 10 years ago.
I know he's done that before.
Right? So, and that's what he said, as soon as you pull on the Cowboys jersey, you're going to be up against it. And that's really wrong. Right? And I'm not saying that the referee changes the result in these first 3 games, right? But it would be good if we got the rub of the green from time to time, and that just doesn't.
I would prefer no team get rub of the green at all. I prefer it to be equal either way.
There's always going to be one. That's the problem.
Unfortunately, I also think that home ground advantage plays a factor more in terms of refereeing than actually comes to player performance.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. It never works up here in Townsville, so we don't.
Maybe we're too mean to the referees. We need to be nice for them, buy them flowers and chocolates, and
we can just get better referees. That would be helpful.
Yeah, finally, it was that simple.
No. But anyway, look, it was better from the Cowboys. not a lot better from the Broncos, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um,
Just looking for improvement from the Cowboys. And speaking of improvement, Jason Taumalolo.
how good was he?
I was really happy watching him play.
Because I know you've been a bit of a critic.
I've been very critical of Tamalolo, but I've been more critical of the contract rather than the player. Because I figured this was going to happen with him because they've been running him ragged for so many years, especially in the late 2010s, that his body was just going to start slowing down at some point. And keeping him on a consistent $1 million a year for that was always going to be an issue.
Yeah.
If they're going to use him like this, where it's just 45 minutes of 100% Tamalolo, that's fine.
Well, I thought he actually played quite well.
I used to play the Cowboys' best forward.
Oh, he ran for the furthest meters for the forward
On
some distance.
Well, that's
more than 10 meters per run, which is
would make me feel like I was dreaming. Because that never happens. The Cowboys throw offense.
he's got a good ball playing game. This is it. I mean, I remember the try that Ning scored against them in 2022, where he just that beautiful short pass. He's got a good and that great ball play, that massive pass he did to Penner.
This is yet another example of Todd Payton trying to push a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't. I don't know what
I'm not negative against Tamalolo. I'm negative against the way Payton's been using him in the past. And I think if he uses him like he did on the weekend, it will be better.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, and he'll probably be happy about that as well because I think going from his where he was doing nearly 60 and then he was dropped down to doing like 30 a game or something, you'd feel, if you were Tamalolo, you'd feel slighted a bit, right? So you can understand maybe his mentality was, well, the coach obviously doesn't really like me very much, so why should I put in an effort?
Breaking my hand 3 times.
That was a couple of years ago. I was before he got dropped to the small.
Yeah.
And
But I think the question that needs to happen is that how do you split his 45 minutes? Because I don't like the idea of him and McLean being on the field at the same time. Because you have two old forwards who can't move sideways at all, and that was very evident in the Payne Haas try. I thought he ran straight between the two of them.
but to be fair, Cotter didn't really chase hard from dummy half either.
Yeah, I'm from Marcus.
Sorry.
I don't know what's going on with Ruben Cotter.
Look, he put in a lot of effort when he was running. That was good to see that he was actually going at 100 miles an hour. But the defence, I don't know what the structure is. I don't think there is one.
I don't know what Justin Morgan's trying to do with the structure.
Very, very. It's not working.
He's a really That's what it is.
Like we need.
All Warriors. Sign all the Warriors. I remember that was what we all thought when Todd first rocked up and he signs like 3 Warriors in a row. We got Vilea, I suppose.
And of course now there's whispers of some other person that could possibly make their way up here.
We'll talk about that later.
So overall,
it's an improvement.
It is, and like best on ground for the Cowboys, like a talent.
Their best.
Well, probably their best. I thought Purdue would be coming in second, I imagine, and Dearden needs to find his mojo again. I don't know what's happened there.
I legitimately think it was the loss of James Maloney because he is an exceptional 5'8". He would have done a lot for.
I think he did. Dearden was. I mean, back when he was the
because
defensive coach, he was scoring points.
The issue with Tom Dearden right now is his pass selection. I don't know what's happening there. He's just making the wrong read nearly every time, and it's quite frustrating because you can look and see a 2-on-1 outside with Purdue wrapping around, and he goes short to flipping. Who's the second row? That's like Donald.
Yeah.
Or Jeremiah Nanai at points, and it's just like, why?
I actually think Nane coming off the bench was a good thing.
I think he was great.
I thought he had a bit more energy. I don't know. You know, he looked like he had a bit more energy.
He ran more times this week than he did in round 1. He ran twice as much. And 6 times in
improvement.
33 minutes.
Yeah.
And he still had 2 missed tackles somehow. That's what you expect from Jeremiah Nanai, unfortunately.
These days, they've forgotten how to use him properly. This is the thing. It's so frustrating.
Again, it's Todd Payton forcing players into a scheme rather than scheming around the players.
You've got to sometimes let them
use what their gifts and strengths are.
And let them play what's in front of them. I think that's part of the Cowboys' problem. Too much structure into a structure, and they can't get out of it.
We've seen this before.
Yeah.
We saw this exactly with the end of Paul Green.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened.
They need to evolve. They're evolving.
They need to fix it. Todd Payton needs to change something. Unfortunately, I think he's too pig-headed.
Hopefully, we see I just want to see a continued improvement of
Well,
their
I
game.
will say the amount of points they're conceding every week is decreasing.
And the amount they're actually scoring.
It was 12 out of 15.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to get to a point
Where it's a
where
tie.
it'll be a tie, and then the Cowboys will throw the points and never lose again.
Yes. Let's go with that.
We'll go with that. That's mathematical. That is. Let's go on to that one. Sharks, Rabbits. Pretty much what I expected, I think.
Sharks
Sharks won fairly convincingly.
Yeah.
Rabbits had some good moments.
I kind of picked this that the Sharks are going to win pretty comfortably. It's just they were too polished, and
that's exactly what was going to happen. Their squad is
Poodle is just running that team around very well.
I think Nico Hines was better. I thought Giants had a good game. That's 2 games in a row that he's been very, very good.
I think Poodle brings that X factor, which is helpful.
He's a good foil for Nico, I think.
And of course, their forwards. We know their forwards are big.
Yeah, the forwards and Fernando is still phenomenal.
Yeah, he's in the top 3, I think, of forwards behind Payne Haas and a gap.
Pretty much.
I think they got Adnan, probably Fisher Harris, probably kicking there. So, Yo, of course, is up there in that conversation, but he's not really a front rower. It's
almost they're 2 different genres of forward.
Sharks were great. Souths were okay without setting the world on fire.
I was mad watching Souths. It wasn't like the pulling my hair out stuff that was from last year.
Yeah. I still think they're going to struggle a bit until they get their big fellow back.
He's supposedly going to be coming back in the next couple of weeks, which is huge. He'll be back against the Cowboys and go absolutely ham.
Either that, he'll be back and he's back there.
Ends it again.
Yeah. I don't want him to get injured, but I want him to be quiet.
Yeah. So just classic Sharks. I think I did the math. The back 5 did 46% of their running meters, which is, I guess, what you expect from Cronulla, but it's still immense. Tyler, I think, 264 running meters. He is
one of those was 80 on the trot.
Yeah, I know, but that's still really, really good.
And he was really tired by the end. He was like running in quicksand.
Aldo Militalo, I thought, also had a very good game.
He was great.
He does the rocks and diamonds.
Yes.
A few plays. He'll have really bad defensive reads as his issue.
Yeah, he's a very good attacker.
I guess
he's a good aerial person as well.
Yeah. On the Rabbit side, there's not much besides Jamie Humphries still being excellent.
You like Humphries?
I love Jamie Humphries. I understand why Manly were really angry that they lost him, especially now with the whole,
Yes. Which we'll get to at some point.
We'll get to that. I also loved Braden Trindle kicking the field goal with 5 seconds left on the drum points. Up by 14 points.
Pretty cool.
Who had the Sharks covering 14 and a half is ecstatic right now.
It's like, why not? We're here. We nailed it.
Say this. This is my hot take about rugby league. If you're in range for a field goal, shot. Because the worst that happens is you miss it.
Yeah.
The best that happens is you get a point and you possibly get the ball back. I feel like field goals are broken and no one exploits them nearly enough.
Well, sometimes you get 2 points too, which is
that's
definitely worth it.
Field goals way more often. I think I'm becoming rugby union.
Because that's what they do, because they're worth 3.
Yeah.
So that's too many for a field goal.
Yeah, it's just, there's a few bright spots on the Rabbits. The Sharks were just very, very convincing.
They were clinical, and
what they need to do is just rack up wins against like the lower tier teams until Latrell comes back, and then they might be able to run up some of the big boys.
We'll see, won't we?
We will see.
Okay.
48 missed tackles is nowhere near good enough to win a game, though. That's the issue. It's worse than the Cowboys.
Which is not great. We're 37, I think.
Something like that. But yeah, they need to hang on to their tackles. But I've said this before, the missed tackle statistic can be a bit misleading.
Of course it can, because
you look at Canterbury last year, who were universally agreed on as one of the better defensive sides. I think they were 3rd highest in missed tackles or something.
Yeah, but things like I said,
scramble defense.
But it's also, I think a lot of them, you got one guy might fall off the legs, but he's already got 2 guys on him, and that will be classed as a missed tackle. Yeah, it's an odd statistic. It's hard to gauge exactly. I think ineffective are better gauges of how they go.
Ineffective ones are the ones that I think are needed an offload. I think that's the qualifier for an ineffective tackle, which is why the Cowboys had so many, because Payne Haas was offloading at will. Yeah. Finns Tigers. Taylor 2 halves, this one.
I actually tipped the Finns to win. I thought they would.
I thought they
really
would.
thought they would. But to the Tigers' credit,
That second half was phenomenal.
they are playing
Really good
some
stuff.
really, really good football, and I hope they can continue. Once again, it's like we say with other teams, if the Tigers are going well, the NRL is going well.
Absolutely.
They could still end up being their number 9 again.
That would be funny, wouldn't it?
Ninth place Tigers, which is possible. I mean, I have them at 11, which is still a good improve of what they've been, but they could even go better than that. Who knows? And with Luai's playing really well.
Galvin hasn't regressed at all.
No, Taruga is scoring tries like they're going out of fashion.
Terrell May
Terrell May,
quickly becoming my favourite forward to watch.
oh, he always runs off the back fence.
So good, and his defence is great. He's got a good offloading.
Yeah.
He's the kind of what you want in a long-back forward.
He is a very good forward.
He's excellent.
And like he doesn't shirk his responsibility, which
Absolutely.
he doesn't get lazy. He doesn't do anything like that. He plays football.
Yeah.
He is a footballer, as they say in the classics. I'm glad he's not a cricketer because
he's a real man's footballer.
He's a footballer's footballer. When he hits them, they stay hit.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's a good player. He's good. For the Finns,
I thought, look, it's all the positives from the Finns are going to come from that first half because that's when they were really good. I thought Isaiah Cattell played excellent.
He was great. I also thought Bostock on his comeback game was quite good.
Yeah,
he didn't do anything wrong. Jermaine Zacco, he was okay without being great.
Gilbert did his job. I think he's still warming back into playing football.
It's hard for him. And I actually thought Saifidi, he was probably one of the
he was surprisingly good.
Yeah. Felice Kafusi needs to get his head out of his butt. Just play football.
Never liked Felice Kafusi. I've never liked him.
For Melbourne. Look, he's a good defender, but he's just so good for a penalty or something.
He feels like Viliami Kickout almost.
Cool.
I know what he feels like. But he's playing in the middle now, even though he's a second rower by trade.
Well, that's the problem. The Dolphins, right? They don't have anybody massive.
Yeah, see, the fact that they would rather play Max Platt at second row than Felice Kafusi kind of tells me what they think about him, which is that he is not the player he used to be.
He isn't as fast as he was. He's not, that happens.
I guess he is very, like you said before, he's very solid defensively, and they need that in the middle where they still have a pretty old forward pack, to be fair.
And they're not big. They're not really forward pack. Who's their biggest player? Yeah.
Maybe like Mark Nichols.
He's not going to be the tallest player.
Yeah, there's just not much here for the Dolphins forward pack. So, look, this was going to be a concern when they rocked up in the competition, is they had to deal with everyone's scraps.
Yeah.
And Wayne Bennett was going to do well with the squad because he's Wayne Bennett, obviously. But as soon as he left, Christian Wolf was left with a tough squad. And they've had a couple of good signings that have bolstered them a bit. But it's just going to take a little bit for them to...
And take a bit for them to gel with the coach and everything like that. It's just one of those things. I think by the end of the year, you'll see a better Dolphins team.
Yes, because Trey Fuller will be playing fullback. Because Hammer won't be. And
I'll put him into the centres again.
I think he may not even be there. He is not playing at NRL level right now. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe wants to come back.
So I hope not. He is... I'm sorry. You are the fastest fullback in rugby league. Really. There's no one else. And you're running 11 times in a game for 92 meters. And you see this every time where there's they have these wide attacking shapes that they do on the red zone. And it's Hammer gets the ball, takes 2 steps and dumps it off to Herbie Farnworth. That's their entire scheme. I don't know why you don't use the weapon that Hammer is, or it's Hammer, or Hammer doesn't want to be used as a weapon because he's lazy. It has to be one of those two. It's either scheme or player. And I'm leaning towards it being Hammer being the problem.
I'd like to hope not, because he seems like a nice guy, and he seems like,
Yeah, I have no issue with him being a rugby league good guy. I just don't think that he, right now, has the mentality to be what the NRL demands of the modern-day fullback.
Yeah, mate, look, who knows? I guess that's to be seen in the future, but Trey Fuller is more exciting. I'll give him that.
I think I much prefer the Dolphins having him there and Hammer in the centres or on the wing.
Yeah, centre's probably his best position.
Well, that's where he plays at Origin, right? And he has a try scoring rate of 150% or something ridiculous.
Pretty strange.
So Hammer's an enigma when it comes to this team. They need to get something in his head.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the Tigers are going quite well. It's going to be harder to be against them for certain games.
I'll pivot back to the Tigers for a second. I love what Fonua Pole is doing because everyone will talk about Terrell May and how he's probably going to be arguably the signing of the year. Fonua Pole ran for more meters. He ran for 212 meters in 56 minutes, which is immense.
That's pretty good.
It's very, very good. And he's been sitting there for a couple of years. People are talking about it because he's on the Tigers for the past couple of years. Nothing positive came out of those discussions.
Yeah.
But now that they're playing well, I hope Polly gets his flowers because he's playing very well. The Tigers extended him for a couple of years, I think, in the preseason, which is an excellent decision because I would have loved the Cowboys to chase him, but that wouldn't happen because it's the Cowboys. But I just think
he's showing some really
he's showing really good. I think Samuel Afinu is an excellent player. Dream Bull is going to get better as he keeps getting back match fit.
Yeah.
Problem. There's a lot of good to like about the Tigers. Watch out if they can put that second half together for 80 minutes. They could be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of the worst team in the comp by any stretch at the moment.
This is all you were hoping out of the Tigers for this year is some positive regression. And no, regression just means change. I just think this is what you want, and it's looking really good.
Yeah.
It's how sustainable it is, which is the question with a lot of these teams that seem to shoot up out of nowhere.
Well, I think that's it. Like the Dolphins were doing really well for the first couple of years, for the first 10, 12 rounds, and then it sort of sunk. So hopefully they can keep it up.
It's going to be a good test for Benji Marshall, see if he can keep this team performing at that high level.
I think he's got some help now with Jerome Luai and that sort of
Yeah, well, he's got the squad, right? He's going to help. It's going to be a Trent
Robinson.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so next up,
Tigers. I knew this would happen. This was a terrible matchup for Newcastle. And especially losing Dylan Lucas before kickoff as well sucks. Because he's an excellent player. That kind of was like the nail in the coffin to me. It was like, okay, the Titans are going to win this. But the way they won it surprised me. They were extremely disciplined, which is something you don't see out of the Titans a lot. And it's good to see them do it
because that's Hazlitt.
That's his MO, right? Maybe that's a function of him coming into the squad that's so used to just throwing the ball around and hoping that these good players make plays.
And the fact is, they've got good players who can make plays, right? But if they're playing that,
you need to do the fundamentals right.
Yeah, look,
sound like Todd Payton.
It's great for defence, I think, and certain forms of attack. But I think you've got to be a little more.
Yeah, if you're looking at the squad, you see, okay, I've got Keanu Keeney, who's one of the nippiest fullbacks and is very, very fast. I've got AJ Brimson, who's a big-bodied 5'8", who's very, very quick. Jaden Campbell, who's got a good running game for a 7 and a good kick. I've got David Fafita. I've got Bo Fermor. I've got Jojo Fafita, Lofi Camperera. I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking, free-flowing, heads-up football is what this team needs to play. And maybe it's going to come later on because you're going to try to get the fundamentals right first and then expand on them.
It was their first game, right? So
it's their second game.
They lost twice, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay. And look, they obviously showed improvement. The Knights, well, they're pretty average, to be fair.
They did not play well. I think 67% completion rate is terrible.
That's awful. You can't win football games with that. It's a very rarity for that to happen. So,
because I imagine Adam O'Brien has looked at all of the criticism that's come his way about the squad, especially and how they're too Ponga-centric. So I think he thought, okay, we're playing the Titans, who historically are pretty bad defensively. I'm going to come up with a specific scheme to make Ponga not the central element of the attack. And it completely fell apart.
Ponga has to be.
He needs to be the focal point of the attack. He has to be.
He is one of the only ones in the squad that has any imagination when it comes to attacking football.
Exactly. I love Fletcher Sharp. I think he's been playing well.
He's fine.
He's going to function capital points.
Yeah, and
look, Jack Cogger isn't exactly a top shelf like that.
He's okay.
He's serviceable, sure. He just needs to be there as a facet for Kalen Ponga to use.
Mm-hmm. He needs to be the handoff. I think that's what they called him. Rugby union.
Yeah.
But yeah. Look, it was a good game for the Gold Coast. Tino was big.
Tino was massive. It's so good to see him.
Queensland will love it that he's back as well. Because we missed some big boppers this last year, and that was quite obvious. We were being monstered in the Origin. So if he's back, he won't allow that to happen, which is good. Good signs for the Gold Coast.
I will say a bright spot for Newcastle was a person I highlighted in the preseason as who I thought might get the 13 jersey over Adam Elliott was Thomas Cannon, who came onto the edge for Dylan Lucas. Played the whole game. He ran for 170-ish meters or something. Had very good tackling stats. I'm happy I got one right, to be honest, when it comes to a breakout player.
Yeah, look, no, well done. But yeah, the Knights need to go back to the drawing board.
Mate, what was that? 56 tackles. Yeah, big numbers. Big numbers. I guess also on the Titans side, Jaden Campbell had his first great game of the year. I thought he was excellent. Good to see David Fafita play more than 30 minutes this week, which is, I guess, you're looking
There
at
were still 30 very average minutes, unfortunately.
55 minutes this week.
He still wasn't great.
It wasn't phenomenal.
There's something going on with him. I mean,
I don't know whether it almost feels like a Peyton and Tamalolo.
Yeah, it does.
Happened here.
It does.
Which
And
is never a good sign.
no, because we know what's happening there,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But yeah, okay, well, good luck to the Titans. I hope they keep going because we need some Queensland teams to do well.
We brought up the firepower of the Titans before. We have all these players. And you'd make the assumption that because they're so free-flowing and unstructured and stuff, that you'd need all of them firing for them to play well. Brimson, I thought, had a really bad night. I thought he was pretty poor, and they still win by 20 points. It's a really good sign.
Part of that is the function of the Knights having nothing.
That's true. They fell back into their conservative attacking habits.
Can't do that.
You can't do it.
Especially against another team who don't do that.
Look, I understand you lose Dylan Lucas and that edge becomes a little less potent, but you still have Dane Gagai on the other side of the field.
He breaks tackles for fun,
A great player. Also, the Greg Marju wasn't.
He
didn't have a good game.
He had an off game. But that'll happen from time to time. So hopefully the Knights bounce back. Good luck to the Gold Coast. Let's see how we go.
Titans. Eels, Doggies. This was another bit true swinging game.
Crap fest.
Very bad game.
I'm just glad.
I'm glad it's over.
I'm glad it's over. I'm glad the Bulldogs won.
Yeah.
Because it's keeping a certain team off the bottom right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just tough. Oh, it's raining again.
It's raining.
I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is raining again in Townsville. I don't know what is happening.
I'm going to have to build it up, I think.
It's
crazy. Get webbed feet.
Yeah. So I guess the big takeaway I got out of this game is I didn't realize how much of the Bulldogs' attack went through Matt Burt. But
they were they were bad. But so they're lucky that the Parramatta got
it. The Parramatta. Like I said this in the preview last week, is that this is the time for the Bulldogs to be with this squad and play Parramatta.
Yeah.
You want to be playing a bad team when you have a bad team.
To be fair, Parramatta were probably the better side in the second half. But the Bulldogs managed to gut it out. They did their dogs of war thing, right? They just hung in, and Parramatta couldn't score more than a try.
Yeah, Dean Hawkins is your 7 and Isaiah Iongi is your fullback. That's going to be a regular occurrence, unfortunately.
Yeah, but once again, the Doggies were without their main attacking weapon as well. So, look, well done to the Dogs. You're going to guts it out for a few more weeks until your big boys come back.
Yeah.
They probably miss kick out a little bit on the side as well.
Well, I guess, yeah, I was going to go into this in individual performance, but I thought Harry Hayes looked really good, being like the rotational second rower on that side. I've sung his praises for a while. I'm really liking that he's getting more minutes in this Bulldogs pack. Connor Tracy ran for 200 meters again. He is
a good fullback.
He's underrated in his
defense is generally pretty good as well.
I think that Bronson Cherry probably had one of his better games in his since his Cronulla days. I thought he played very, very well.
He's a big body and he's fast, right? So that's a good combination.
Yeah, exactly.
The Dogs did what they had to do.
Yes. And the
Eels tried hard. We'll give them that.
They looked a little bit more interested this week. And you could see that.
They always get up. The Dogs, Parramatta.
It's a fun one, isn't
it? That confrontation's always.
Because I want to point out a specific player that I saw this happening with in the first couple of rounds. And that's Jermaine Hopgood. This guy who's notoriously been like a workhorse forward for Parramatta the past couple of years. In the first 2 rounds, looked very, very lethargic and a bit like apathetic. This week, his work rate was insane. I thought he looked interested again, and that's a good sign for the Eels maybe trying to turn things around a little bit. I feel so bad for Jason Riles and what he's
He's
been.
got a pretty ordinary squad.
I saw this on Fox League. They should. I agree with them probably releasing Dylan Brown early. It. Maybe they can't because Newcastle can't afford him right now. But I feel like if you're going to rebuild, you need to clean house. You need to rebuild. They're not going to get rid of Mitch Moses. That's never going to happen. He just needs to. They just need to wait till he comes back because it's going to take longer than expected now, which kind of sucks. It's like I think he had some because he had the foot injury last year, and they put some like bolts in, and now it's getting really poor circulation down there, which is never a good sign. So if they look, they just need to sit. This year was always going to be a bit of a lost cause for them. It's just seeing what Jason Riles can do with this squad and hopefully try and get some decent people out of
He
it.
was always fighting to nothing, right? I mean, especially when they lost Moses, that was like death knell.
It was always going to be an issue. I will say another big effort player I really liked from this game was Zach Lomax because we all thought, okay, he's got his bag from Parramatta, or he's going to play in the centres again, where he notoriously doesn't have like a very high work rate. He ran for 303 meters.
He ran 30 times.
He was probably Parramatta's best.
Yeah, but unfortunately, look, he's a great player, but he can get a little bit narky at the end of games and stuff when his team's losing.
Yeah, well,
Which isn't a great look,
no,
but he's a very, very talented player. We know this. He just happens to be on the worst team in
he
competition.
doesn't have a good fullback feeding, a good halfback or a fullback feeding him the ball, right?
That's the sad part. But yeah, Para fans just
This is what was expected,
keep
right?
keeping on. It'll turn around at some point.
Maybe 5 years from
Yeah,
now.
we'll see what happens.
It kind of feels like this is what happens with
I
Parramatta.
can't be saying this is our year this year because it's definitely not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I like Parramatta. I've never really despised.
Yeah, no.
I didn't like Brad Arthur, but that was
Prior to Brisbane coming in, Para were kind of my team. Them and the Raiders.
fair enough.
Okay. Speaking of,
Speaking of the Raiders,
they
were
heck just happened.
collapsed. Manly
Pulled them apart.
Yeah, Canberra walked into Brookvale and were absolutely ambushed. This was General Custer level.
It was so bad, and they couldn't pull it back.
I will say,
They would have beaten worse than the Cowboys were by Manly. Which
I will say 90% of like Manly's good attack that happened when Corey Horsburgh was sent in. Because they didn't score any points before that happened. So,
3 tries.
and then they got 3 tries while he was off, and then I think the fourth one when he'd been on for like 10 seconds. So it's kind of it's rough going for the Raiders, unfortunately, and Manly just took advantage.
That was without a person by the name of Tom Trebojevic.
It was without Turbo. Although I will say Lehigh Hopewadi.
He's not a bad
replacement. I love Lehigh Hopewadi. He's great.
What's the word about the Eagles? I mean, Kawatu was massive.
They were just completely dominant. I think they finished the first half with 70% possession.
And it was 30-0.
It was
the game was over.
a complete shellacking in that first half.
And Canberra, they scored a couple of garbage time tries, but that was.
Ruben Garrick had a pretty good week.
Yep, he became a dad.
And then scored 4 tries. And I think tied his points in the game for Manly record.
Yeah, no, I think 36 was the record.
36 is record.
No,
that's right. Yeah, it might have been second.
Second. So, can't whinge. I mean,
No.
He had a very, very good game. I'm not a big Garrick fan, but he had a really good game.
He's a bit of a flopper.
I do think he's a flopper. I think he plays up to the referee a lot.
Unfortunately, I think that's just what happens in rugby league these days.
It's kind of sad because it's turning into soccer, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay. See,
the most random double in 2 minutes I've ever seen from Ethan Bullimore. That was very, very strange.
I don't know what happened there.
It's
He's
just
not a bad player, but that's not a thing, right? That,
I feel bad for him because, with the people that the Broncos had in the second row, there just wasn't a spot for him. He's gone to Manly. He's really made a home of that bench.
That's great for him, right? And he played really well.
In terms of Canberra,
there wasn't much to talk
more
about.
Scott Sinbin, but I thought he still played all right for the 55 minutes.
And did his thing that he done.
He did his job. I thought that Hudson Young actually had a pretty good game.
Yes, that was his best game of the year, I think, so far.
Yeah, he does that. He shows this origin level ceiling that he has, and then he'll just kind of do something stupid. in a couple of games. Everyone kind of forgets about it.
There's not much else to talk about. I thought.
Too much to talk about with the Raiders.
Xavier Savage had a pretty average game. Their fullback was smashed.
Oh, I feel like KO Weeks had a bit of a rough night.
Gets the bomb.
I know Corey Hornsby will come a bit of the flack for being tended and making Canberra about 12. Weeks didn't help. He was really poor under the eyeball.
And Manly saw that straight away and just kept on going. And it kept on coming up like roses for them. So, well done, Manly. I still think they're the real deal. They just have to learn how to win away. The next two games are at home.
So they'll be fine for a little bit. Which means, but that means at the pointy end of the year they're going to have more away games.
That's it, and they're 6 out of 16 or something away, so they're not doing quite so well.
Yeah.
6 out of 17 now because they lost when they went over to the Warriors.
Yeah, so it's a bit rough going for them when they're not at Brookvale. But, I guess we'll see if they can improve that. So now we move on to round 4. Teamless Tuesday, the day everyone looks forward to on the rugby league calendar. It's more for fantasy players than anything, I think. Bunnies Panthers is on Thursday. This is going to be a repeat of Sharks Bunnies.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Panthers are going to win pretty comfortably. Look, they won't have Cleary, but they'll have had a week with the guy who's going to take his spot.
And the guy who's in his spot played a couple of games at halfback last year when Cleary was out, which is Trent Tullow.
Okay.
He comes in. Dane Laurie, who was pulled, I think, a day before the Storm game with a quad something, I think, is back at fullback. So that pushes Tom Jenkins into the centres. Well, we didn't talk about Tom Jenkins. I really liked him. In his first game at fullback,
He was excellent.
I thought he played pretty well.
That blonde guy.
Yeah.
He was very, very good. He was one of their better players, to be fair.
And then that pushes Paul Alamotti out onto the wing. And obviously, like we said before, they lose Nathan Cleary and Trent Tullow comes in. For the Rabbits, AJ, Alex Johnston's back, which is good because he gets to continue to coach for Ken Evans' record.
He can continue to fall over the line.
Campbell Graham's out again, unfortunately, which means Isaiah Tass moves into the centres.
That's not necessarily good.
It's not great. This is just going to be a repeat of, like I said, Cronulla.
It could be a little worse.
I think it'll be about the same, if I'm being honest.
Well, see, Cronulla, I believe, are one of the heavyweights of the comp.
Absolutely. And, look, maybe you're right. Maybe a week with Trent Tullow out the 7 is going to make them a bit more attacking competent. But if the Souths play like they did last week, I think they're just going to hold Penrith to a decently low score. They just won't be able to score any points. I think Tony Humphries will play well again. But that's about it.
Cool. So I'm thinking Panthers by a little bit.
I will say, the argument for Penrith, like almost guaranteed winning this, is that in the last 6 games between these two at Accor Stadium, which is being played, Penrith are 5-1. It's a bit of because that's all in the dynasty years, so that's a bit of a tough going for the Rabbits. I think the Panthers will just win. They'll go about their business. It won't be anything special.
I don't have to do it.
Exactly. So I've had them 24-10.
I think it'll be a little worse than that.
It'll be worse than that.
I think it'll be more like 30-10. But anyway,
fair enough. Titans. This will be fun.
Well, this really depends on which Chook's outfit shows up.
This game always produces something weird. There's always something odd when it comes to Roosters Titans.
Go back to that.
Oh, that's that qualifying final.
So bad for the Titans. I should have won that one.
Oh, Patrick Herbert.
You won't worry about that. But I think, this will be a good game. I think it'll be better than we think it might be. I think the Chooks will bounce back from their performance last week. It's at the Chooks' home ground. That will help. And the Gold Coast, we know they played really well. So it could go either way. I think it's one of those ones that's one of the 50-50 films around. And there's probably a couple of those, but this is probably the most 50-50, I think.
I agree. So in terms of the teams, Connor Watson's out through concussion protocol. So you've got Zach Docker-Clay starting at 9.
Look, he had a really good game. He was very good for the Roosters in the losing team last week. So,
and then Lindsay Collins and Nat Butcher are both named to come back via the bench, which is good for them. Yes. I love Lindsay Collins.
Yeah. And Nat Butcher is just a workhorse.
And Nat Butcher is just a workhorse. That's all he does. For the Titans, this is rough. Keanu Keeney is out with a neck problem, which he's seeing a specialist for, which is never a good sign. That's a problem. So Jalen I am the Groot comes in to play at the fullback.
That was kind of sad.
It was terrible. I'm sorry. I had to make the pun. I guess I did like a bit of research when it comes to like records of teams playing at this. None of the current Titans squad has played the Roosters at Allianz, which I thought was I really thought it was wrong. I had to check it 3 times. None of these guys have played the Roosters at home before, which is
Should be interesting then.
but it's impossible to try and predict like who's going to score try. No one knows. Look, this is probably going to be a pretty high scoring game. I'm expecting a big game, probably out of James Tedesco. I think Jaden Campbell's also probably in for a pretty big
I
game.
think that Bradley will be better for his run back last week. I think he'll come back a bit.
Exactly, and with the Roosters having their forwards back, it's a good sign for them. I, however, am going to pick the Titans because I love them. 40-36.
Holy dooly. I don't think it's going to be quite
Well,
that.
they always have these sorts of games in the middle of the year. Usually it's against Melbourne for some reason, but I just see lots of points being in this game.
I think the Roosters will bounce back. I think it could go to Golden Point. I'm going to tip the Roosters, but not
Not any great deal.
not great confidence because I know how good the Titans can be on their day. So if this will be fun, the Roosters team that play the Penrith show up, they'll win. If the Roosters
The other two
play
games-
Auckland, they will lose. So hopefully they pull it out.
It's no idea what to think by these teams.
Yeah, no, it's still too early. Let's face it.
These Broncos battle for Brisbane again, which is somehow an away game at Suncorp for the Broncos.
But the Lions have 2 home grounds.
I find it really dumb.
I think it's had KO as a home ground. Yeah.
Just like how the Tigers should only have Waikato as their home stadium. But, you know,
Campbelltown either way works, right? So
they're better at Waikato.
I know. That's why I said Campbelltown.
Does Finns pick the same 17 again, despite being winless for the start of the year?
The Broncos are going to win this.
In huge good news for the Broncos, Katoni Staggs is back. That's massive. Which sees Dean Mariner drop out, and Gehemet Shivastaki keeps the centre spot.
Well, to be fair, he's been playing well.
I'm very happy
I
for
thought
him.
he was probably the best centre last week against us.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy for Gehemet. He didn't really get much of a shot up here, unfortunately.
No, but then again, when he was here, he didn't really show a lot. So I'm glad he's making every post to win. Yeah, he wasn't here.
The entire team was pretty poor that year, to be fair.
Yeah, I think Brisbane win. I don't think. Look, I'd love to see the Dolphins get a win because I really like Christian Wolf as a coach, but they've got to start showing a little bit more in attack than they've been doing.
I just feel like the Finns are going to lose this game the same way they've lost their first 3 games, where they'll be okay for maybe the first 15, 20 minutes, and then their forward pack will get too tired, all their best players come off.
Payne Haas, right? Which is why I'm keeping him my captain in fantasy, so that's
He's
going
going
for another 100.
90 is ridiculous. Like, that's insane.
Well, he deserves it. He obviously, he's a great footballer.
Yeah, Broncos by a few tries.
I think it'll be a few. Yeah.
It'll be a few. I think I have them 32-14 or something. It'll be something like that.
And it will be at least that.
We'll see if Katoni Staggs can do an our home thing on his return game. It's fun. I like that. I know you didn't like it. I thought that was good.
We know it's Brisbane's home ground, but the Dolphins didn't ask for it to be one of their home grounds. That's the way it worked, right? So I think he was going a bit off that particular.
Hey, Dragon Storm. Well, this game last year produced one of the major upsets of last season with the Dragons getting up. I don't see that happening again.
They're still going to win.
So the Dragons, coming off the bye, see the lazy T-boy, Toby Couchman, start in the middle with David Clemmer making his club debut off the bench. Also,
Sorry, but
NRL debutant alert, Dylan Egan comes onto the bench for the Dragons in place of Raymond Faitala-Mara. I think he's just bad.
okay.
I really think that's what happened because he's sitting in the reserves. He's not injured. I think he just got dropped. It'll be good to see debutants. It's always good to see debutants right now.
Good luck to them.
Moses Suli is named, though he probably could drop out after his rib thing that he had last week. In which case, I don't know what happens, but I guess we'll see. For Melbourne, Jerome Hughes is out with his broken hand. So Tyron Wishart plays the 7. Oh no,
They lose so much.
it's just ridiculous how good he is. Grant Anderson, who's somehow still alive, is playing in the centres with Nick Meaney going out with his head broken.
I think Nelson will be good for his run last week. He was bit.
He would be, but he's not named because he's had a delayed HIA, probably from breaking Nick Meaney's jaw. And Will Warbrick is back, which is huge.
Yes, he's one of the better wingers at the moment.
Lazarus Alepu rejoins the bench, who is also an excellent player.
Oh, yes, we saw him up against the Cowboys, and
Bronson Garlick comes onto the bench to take Tyrone Lashat's spot.
Melbourne's fine as well.
Melbourne by a bit.
Melbourne by too much, I imagine.
However, like I said, I was doing the research. Melbourne haven't won at Net Stratton Jubilee in 10 years.
How many times have they won that 10 years?
Like 3. That's why.
Yeah.
But maybe there's some hope for Dragons fans.
Melbourne, not a lot. Melbourne by about 3 or 4 tries, I think.
I put them by 20, which I think is a fair margin.
Yep, I think so.
I'm just looking for some form of offensive.
I think the loss of Ben Hunt will come back in this one and won't be very good for him.
Paul? Yeah, okay. I can see that happening as well. Cows Raiders. This is
when people call them the Cows.
Look, this is the first game I feel like where the Cowboys have an actual chance of winning, which scares me because I know it's not going to end well. Knowing this team.
Well, see, look, if they continue their upward trajectory, I just want to see improvement.
Yes.
Even if they don't win, if they're putting in effort, and you can see they're putting in effort, and it's just a little 1.5% or whatever that aren't quite coming off of them, then great, they're putting in the effort. Look, it'll just switch will click, and they'll start scoring points. Last year, of course, their defensive liabilities were masked by the fact they could score 100 million points a game, right? Whereas they can't do that this year. So they really need to up their defensive skill. And to be fair, generally speaking, their online defense has actually been not bad.
It's really odd that that's the issue. Yeah. I can't quite understand that. I mean, maybe it's because it's a psychological thing with players. Like, okay, well, we're not on our goal line. Maybe we don't have to defend as hard.
But I feel sorry. Look, against Cronulla, it was a little bit different because when they lost Braden Burns, they had to reshuffle
everything. And then they had to reshuffle again against Brisbane.
Yes,
Sam McIntyre just put centre on his resume, I reckon.
Look, he's great, but he's really not a centre. Like when Cullen Hess had to do it that time. It wasn't a good thing.
You know, I hate Labour on the bench. It's sick to say this. They missed Jake Granville. They miss his versatility.
He was a Mr. Fix-It, was he? Or who was the other guy?
Ben Hampton. Yeah.
They do. They miss those guys because they could play anywhere in the back line when they were needed, and even like hooker or
exactly
whatever they needed to play.
He hasn't performed very well, which is unfortunate.
Pretty average.
So the Cowboys
stick with not even playing, is he?
No, they stick with the same 17 that lost to Brisbane, but I guess maybe that's a good thing to try and Jake Clifford back into this. Just
and look, I agree with you. I think this is the first game that they will probably have a good chance of winning. But it has to be the North Queensland team that came out against Brisbane.
Yes, if it's the one that came out against Manly, for example.
But then again, you look at the Canberra team that came out against Manly.
Exactly.
They were worse.
And see, that's what scares me because Ricky Stewart's very good at getting his teams to bounce back like that. So I guess we will see. In terms of the Raiders, Joe Tappening is back.
Yeah, that's scary.
So that moves Corey Horsburgh to the lock role and Trey Mooney, who started the lock. Morgan Smithies, I think, is out through concussion protocol, so that's a whole thing. Look, we know that Canberra don't necessarily play very well up here.
They have they're one of the worst record teams in town.
It doesn't surprise me much, but it's like they've won, I think, one game at Queensland Country Day. So I think it bodes well for the Cowboys. The pessimist in me is going to say that the Raiders are probably going to win in a close one, and it's going to be very, very frustrating for Cowboys fans to watch.
Yeah.
But
look, I can understand you saying that.
It's very possible the Cowboys come out and win this game.
Yeah, I hope so. Look, they've got to give something to their fans. Their fans are very loyal. Most of them. Some of them are a bit fly-by night. Jump on the bandwagon if they're winning, and they're not the best fans in the universe. But there's a lot of loyal Cowboys fans out there that want to see improvement. That's all they want. They want to see improvement. They want to see them out there giving it a go, right? And not like the first 2 weeks where they looked disinterested.
Yeah, I don't know whether we talked about this in the aftermath of the Cronulla game up here. You could tell that they were not putting in 100%
It's easy to tell, yeah. And look, yes, they lost a bit of obviously when they had to reshuffle their sideline.
Even
But
everything
yeah,
before that, the first half was just it was tough watching.
Yeah.
So hopefully, look, if they come out and beat the Raiders, I will be very, very happy. Because it's a win, which we haven't had in a while. When was the last time we won? August last year ish.
oh, September.
Where was the Knights game? September.
September.
The last time we won was September in last year. So
Yeah, we'd like to have another one, please.
I'm concerned with the return of Joe Tarpany and seeing how the Cowboys have been bulldozed through the middle the past 3 weeks. I just think it's going to happen again. They need to run into a team that doesn't have a very strong forward pack in order to have a chance to win. Like the Dolphins, like maybe Souths or Newcastle, one of those sorts of teams.
But I think, look, guys, like you say, I think they've got every chance of winning this game.
What they need to do, the game plan needs to be completely set. Don't fall off many tackles and put KO Weeks under pressure.
Well,
Because you saw what happened when Manly put him under pressure. He collapsed. And when you have a player with the kicking game of Jake Clifford, it should be number one priority.
I think he has a better kicking game than
He has a bigger kicking
game. Sorry, not better, bigger. So that should give more people time to get to him, right, and scare the crap out of him. Yeah.
The compete, damn it! This game is going to be all about how big the margin is between the Cowboys and Raiders forward pack.
Mm-hmm.
If the Cowboys are worse but only marginally worse, it at least gives Drinkwater and Deedon a chance to create something. If they're being monsters,
and that's the thing, right? And that's what Thurston always said. He could only do what he could do because his forwards were actually going forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We need Tamalolo needs to have another game that he played this week. He needs to play again like next week. We need Neem to somehow turn his.
Man, he's had a really bad start.
He's down on. I think he's down on confidence. He's down on form. He needs to have a good week.
Yeah.
If he goes well, the Cowboys generally go well, right?
Because I almost think his form is a function of the Cowboys' form and not the other way around. He plays well when the Cowboys play well, which isn't a great sign for a player who's supposed to be like the future of this forward pack. But
we need him to turn it around. We need to drink water and have a better game.
We keep talking about this when we talk about the Cowboys not being able to make meters. Man, they miss Halen Lukey. They really miss Halen Lukey. It sucks because look, I think John Bateman is perfectly serviceable. He does not have the post-contact capability that Halen Lukey has.
He's not. Halen is like a physical kind of.
He's very, very unique.
Because he's about 6'5".
I like Kai O'Donnell and he's throwing his body around in defence. He also doesn't make many meters.
Now he's not an attacking weapon, but at the moment we need people who can defend as well.
Exactly. Why the people clamouring to put Tom McHaley on the bench, I don't understand. Because he would not fix that problem.
He'd fix the attacking a little bit because he's got the offload and stuff.
I thought that's what John Bateman was supposed to do. But
he does it a little bit, but I don't think he's as big a body as McHaley, obviously.
No.
And of course, McHaley, when he does run, he does run off the back fence. He really does. I just think he needs another chance. He just needs to be given another chance, and he needs to then take it. But at the moment, he's behind a couple of players.
And I understand, because you always want to talk about when a team can't make meters through the forwards, you're looking at, okay, they need big boppers. You need another big forward. The Cowboys don't need one. They need younger ones.
Yeah.
Because
they've got big boppers, they're just not young.
McLean, Tamalolo, Neem, and Cohen Hess. That's 4 really big guys in the forward pack. That's all you really need.
And like 3 of them are over 30.
Exactly. Like Cohen Hess. He came in very young.
Yeah. And of course, Neem's quite young.
Griffin Neem's pretty young. I think they need to have a rotation system where you have one of the older guys and one of the younger guys on the field at the same time. You can't have both McLean and Tamalolo because otherwise Corey Horsburgh is going to run between them. So you need to make that rotation work. That might take a couple of weeks to figure it out. I think Griffin should,
because they're almost the same.
I think Griffin should be starting. I know he hasn't been great, but I think it'd be better for the team as a whole if he was the starting forward.
If he was McLean, perhaps.
I think
or Tamalolo. I mean,
Either way, I really don't mind. You just need to not have Tamalolo and McLean on at the same time if
yeah.
you can help it.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, look, like I said, it's another one of those flip of the coin games for the.
It's a very, very weird game. I Raiders by a little bit, but I will not be surprised if the Cowboys win.
I understand it. That's cool.
Sharks, Dogs. Sharks this week, where it was Canterbury to play Parramatta. It is the worst possible time for them to run into Cronulla right now.
Cronulla are going to beat them and beat them down.
This is going to, this might be pretty rough watching.
Yeah, if you're a Bulldogs fan, yeah.
I think it's probably going to be a little bit low scoring, simply because Canterbury's strength is defense.
Yes.
And
look, they will be in the game for probably 60 minutes.
Yeah, I just think they're not going to have the offensive polish to actually, threaten.
Much more attacking.
Exactly. So, in terms of teams, the Hazelnut's back. Tom Hazelton is back via the bench, replacing Brendan Henry.
Gene Hazelton.
There's some sort of leg issue, I think. Speaking of legs, I was reading the casualty report for South to see why Campbell Graham was out. And the word for word was he sustained a lower limb injury to his leg.
What other lower limbs do you have?
I thought. I found that very, very funny.
I'm guessing in the lower part of his leg.
I'm assuming that it's something to do with a calf thing, but I just found that wording very strange.
It's like when people say it's 11 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock
in the morning. It's pretty redundant, isn't it? Yeah. Hamlin is out with a leg injury replaced by Tom Hazelton. Otherwise unchanged, however, Talakai had a bit of, I think, an ankle complaint last week, so he could drop off the bench come the 24-hour updates. I guess we'll see. The Dogs are the same. They're the same 17. Yeah,
I think the Dogs have the
5. The Bulldogs haven't won at Shark Park in 8 years. They're 0-5 in the time period. Shark Park's a very hard place to travel to. Canterbury are pretty handicapped in terms of their squad. I can't see them winning. I do see it being fairly close, but low scoring.
The Dogs with defence will keep them in it for a little bit.
Exactly.
They will get tired, and Cronulla will take advantage.
Yeah, I have it 18-8. I can see it being a little bit more for Cronulla, but I
think they'll score 4 tries at least. So I reckon 24.
That's fair. Eagles, Eels. This will be a blowout.
It's at the Eagles Stadium.
It's at Brookvale. Tom Turbo is back.
This is the Eels. You are going to get curb stomped.
This is going to be rough viewing for fans, unfortunately.
If they come out like they did against Canberra, it could be 60 or 70 that they put on.
Yeah, this could be ugly. Like I said, Turbo's back, which pushes Lehigh Hopewadi to the wing, and Clayton Fualalo, or however you pronounce his name, it's the 18th man. Unfortunately, Taniela Paseka did tear his Achilles, which kind of sucks.
That's sad because he's a really good player.
He's an excellent player, but I
always call him Payne Haas light.
They put this built almost the exact same. I get where you're coming from. So Josh Allier moves into the starting side. And
he's good.
Nathan Brown comes onto the bench, which I don't mind at all because I quite like watching him play. He's played for nearly everybody at this point. He's been around the block.
The journeyman.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
In terms of Parramatta, Sean Russell comes onto the wing for some reason. Well, he's been one of the regulars in that.
Oh, okay.
He's just been injured, I think, a little bit.
Right.
And Dan Kia, whoever that is, he sounds like a used car salesman. Joins the bench. They replaced Jordan Samrani and Tuivasi, who were just kind of no-names. It's the 200th game for Joel Fangawi. Yay. It's going to be pretty rough for him, unfortunately.
I'm sorry, Manly by almost a cricket score.
I have them by 26. I have them 40-14. It could very easily be more than that.
Well, to be fair, they haven't scored 50 on anybody this year, so this could be the one that they do it.
Yes, this is true. It could very well happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't. There's just not much positive to talk about when it comes to Parramatta, unfortunately. I think
all this thing with Brown it's weighing on him too. So it's like,
yes, we will see.
Dropping him might be the thing to do.
Yeah, it's just
And
Manly by a bit.
This is the last one. Yes,
Warriors. This game's interesting.
I think it's going to be good.
This game's really intriguing. This is a Campbelltown, which gives the Warriors a chance.
Campbelltown is still one of those places that you don't want to go.
It's still a rough place to play, but
in their head.
It's not like Heart Levels of Bad.
No.
In terms of the Tigers, Gerald Skelton and Samuel Afino were both named despite having injury concerns in the aftermath of the previous game. So it's the same 17 for now. It could change. For the Warriors, obviously, we talked before, Roger Tulasashek is out with a hamstring problem. He'll be out for a few weeks, which pushes Adam Pong into the wing and Rocco Berry comes into the centres.
Okay.
Yeah. If both teams play like they did last week, it's a complete coin flip. This is a tough one.
My personal opinion is, Wests, have a few more attacking weapons, but I think the Warriors' defense is obviously a bit better than the Knights.
Yeah. I'm going to put a lot of stock into saying that this is going to be the first Golden Boy game of the year.
Very well.
I think that's what's going to happen here.
Do you think the Tigers are going to kick the goal?
Yeah. I've written them 20-14 because it's a lot more likely the Golden Point doesn't happen. But if it's going to happen, it's going to be this game. I do still think the Tigers probably win. But this is who knows.
So we've got our 3 flip of the coin games.
Yeah, this is a tough week. Yeah. This is going to be a very interesting week of football, especially for some of these teams that haven't proven anything yet. A few of them, for example, the Warriors, have a bit to prove this week.
So if they can beat the Tigers away from home, then
that's a big win.
Yeah. I'm start looking at it a bit more positive.
Yeah, this week's going to be very interesting. My fantasy team is falling apart, however. I have 4 people not playing. Kalen Ponga's on a bye, and Cleary and Ponga. I know Ponga's on a bye, and Cleary and Watson are both injured. So I'm having to scrap to get Kitione Kautonga into my team, which I don't like looking at my team and seeing 3 Parramatta Eels. That feels really gross.
That's bad enough, unfortunately. Although Junior does okay.
Eventually, Paul, that's right. Yeah.
But
look, yeah, this will be interesting.
It's going to be a hard one to pick. It's one of those harder weeks for tipping again, and hopefully, good luck to everybody who's tipping.
This is a little bit of a seeing in the future one because we're seeing how well Payne Haas is playing. He's hit second on the Dally M leaderboard this week. How long in the season do we think he's going to be at number 1? Because it's very possible we could be looking at a forward Dally M for the first time in a while.
Yeah, the last one was Jason Taylor.
Who tied with Cooper Cronk. When was the last time a forward won outright? That would have been ages ago. Glenn Lazarus, possibly?
1999.
Yeah, so we could be looking at a very, very special season.
Well, I hope so, because look, he might deserve it, to be fair.
I think right now he is the best player in the competition.
I can understand why Callan's still at the top.
Because he is the best player on it. By far the best player on an otherwise not great team. So he stands out. It comes down to people just looking at Newcastle and saying, okay, well, they played well. Kalen Ponga must have done well, so we'll give him all the Dally M points.
Yeah, he got this week because his whole team was...
Yeah, no, I don't think he got any this week. Because, like we said, the Knights weren't great.
Joe Gray.
Joe Gray's up there. He'll be there a little bit until Latrell comes back, obviously. I wonder what they'll do with him. Do you chuck Joe Gray on the wing? Maybe? Yeah, that's the big question. It's going to be interesting to see what Wayne decides to do.
Both of those, so there's no reason why you can't.
Yeah.
Look, it'll be interesting. Wayne Bennett will get what Wayne Bennett wants, so it's okay.
No one's going to defy him.
Yes.
Well, I think that's it.
I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight. And look, good luck with your tipping. Good luck with your fantasy.
Yep.
Good luck to your football team. I hope they win unless they're the Raiders.
Very good. Catch you guys.
See you later.